On this episode, I'd like to go over how to clean your Shinken. And I'm going to show you two different methods. One is a more modern method, and the other is the traditional method. Now, if you're using an iaito, a dull blade for your iaito practice, then there's no need to clean the blade other than maybe giving it a slight coat of oil every once in a while. But if you're using a Shinken, you should be cleaning your blade after every practice. And especially in the summer months when it gets more humid and you sweat more, the blade you will find has a tendency to rust quicker. So it's very important that you clean your blade after every practice. And if at all possible, you should try to clean your blade after practice immediately rather than waiting to go home. Because you'll find that especially in the summer months, even that short amount of time where your sweat and the salt from your body is in contact with the blade, that it can actually start the rusting process in that short amount of time. So you should try to clean the blade pretty much as soon as you finish practice. Now, I'm going to show you the more modern method first. And this is one that I learned from a fellow iaido practitioner who also happens to be a sword collector. And apparently some people feel that the abrasive uchiko powder that's used in the traditional method is a little bit too abrasive for repeated practice if you practice, say, 2-3 times a week. So I'm going to show you the more modern method. Now, I'm going to show you the modern method first, and it involves using some rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol and a microfiber cloth, which I carry in this Ziploc bag. It's the same kind of microfiber cloth you might use to clean a camera lens. So the first thing you want to do is, after practice, you want to wipe off all the excess oil or possibly sweat that may be on the blade. So for that, I just use regular tissue paper, but try to find a tissue paper that doesn't have any lotion embedded in it. So I just wipe off the blade. And you want to pay special attention to the mine, the back of the blade, that usually touches your hand. Once you have wiped off the excess oil, get out the microfiber cloth, and I use a spray bottle like this, which you can find in any drugstore. And the thing that I learned is that, of course, you can put the alcohol in here. But you find that the standard bottle that alcohol comes in actually has the same thread as these spray bottles. So you can just take this part, the atomizer, and then screw it directly into the alcohol bottle. Now, a quick word about the type of alcohol to use. This is rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and as you can see here, this is 91% alcohol. So in the drugstore, you'll find a 70%, and you'll find a 91%. And on the internet, you can also find isopropyl alcohol that is 99%. But the thing about alcohol is that it is very hygroscopic, which means that it absorbs moisture very easily. So unless you have an airtight container, once you open that bottle of 99% alcohol, it will quickly begin to absorb moisture directly from the air. And I'm not sure how quickly that it dilutes to, but it will dilute down to a percentage that is not 99%. So instead of going through the trouble of buying 99% alcohol on the internet, you can just go to your regular drugstore and buy 91%. And I suppose even this will eventually dilute down. I've heard that the stable point is around 70%, and that is what eventually all high concentrations of alcohol will dilute down to. I'm not sure if that's true, but I try to keep this relatively well sealed so that it doesn't continue to absorb moisture from the air. So I'm just going to put the atomizer directly onto the bottle, like this. Okay, now take the microfiber cloth and spray some alcohol on it. And then you wipe the blade. And try to wipe the blade from the tsuba towards the kisaki, because you don't want the debris going towards the habaki right here. There's a very small gap here, and if you keep forcing the debris, eventually it'll fill up. So take the cloth from the habaki towards the kisaki. Be very careful with a Shinken. Obviously it's very sharp, so you want to turn the blade away from you and wipe this way. And pay special attention to the mine, the back side. Any part of the sword that your hand touches during practice, such as in the groove, the hi, you'll also want to pay attention to that. Okay, so that is pretty clean right now. And now you would apply another coat of oil. The type of oil you want to use is choji oil. It's a clove oil. That's the traditional oil used. You can get these from any online store. Comes in a bottle that's relatively small, like this. And choji oil is the same oil that samurai apparently use to comb through their hair. If you watch samurai movies, they have oiled hair that's slicked back. And this is the oil that they used apparently, choji oil. And it kind of smells, to me, it kind of smells like a dentist's office. So instead of re-wetting a piece of cloth every time, I have a little canister here, plastic container with a piece of cloth that is already sort of soaked with choji oil, and I will periodically re-soak it. So normally I would use this and re-oil the blade, but I'll do that later after I show you the traditional method of cleaning the sword. So for the traditional cleaning method, you'll obviously need some cleaning paper. Look like this, and you can buy this on online stores as well. And I've cut this into strips about this long and put it in a Ziploc bag, a tiny snack size Ziploc bag. And I carry this with me in my sword case. And you'll need uchiko powder, the cleaning powder. Slightly abrasive powder that's used to clean the sword traditionally. Comes in this fabric ball, and you've probably seen ones that are covered in red fabric as well. So for the uchiko powder, you want to cover the entire blade with the powder. Both sides of the blade, as well as the mine, the back side, opposite of the blade. And you want to pay special attention to the mine, because this is usually where the hand contacts the sword. So you get a piece of the cleaning paper, and again you want to work from the tsuba towards the kisaki. If you're doing this in the dojo, you should be doing it in the seiza position, kneeling. And pay special attention to the mine. In the summer months, when it gets very humid, you will actually find that this rusts quite easily. So even when you don't use the sword for practice in the summer months, say for some reason you're on a long hiatus from practice, you still need to clean the sword, because you'll find that the moisture can rust the blade even when you're not using it. This is not like a modern stainless steel. This is high carbon steel. It can rust very easily. It's a sort of a living, breathing material. And I think that's part of the reason why there's all this mysticism associated with the sword. And now we can apply some oil. This is again a piece of cloth that's been soaked with choji oil. I wouldn't say soaked. It doesn't have to be dripping with oil. It just has to be impregnated with it so that it's kind of damp with oil. Again, working from the habaki towards the kisaki, paying special attention to the mine. And both sides of the sword. You also want to be careful not to get too much oil on the habaki around here, because that oil will transfer to the koiguchi. So you don't want to get the koiguchi too oily either. Okay. So that is it. And that is how you clean a Shinken.